Hey, it's Kevin DeWitt here, and welcome to another plugin knowledge session. In this session, we're going to check out a plugin called Britson from Sonimus. So firstly, if you're new to my channel and new to my videos and you like what you see, please click the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon to be notified of all my future videos. So the Britson from Sonimus is another analog console emulation style plugin. It's not a channel strip, but just imparts the console analog warmth vibe, whatever you want to call it, that you in theory would get if you were passing audio through a classic console in a studio. That's the whole concept of this. Now it goes sort of like in line with the Satson, which we did in another video, but this one here is emulating, again, another British console, but more in the line of a Neve style console. Now, Sonimus themselves don't really claim that these are Neve or SSLs or anything like that, but that's the vibe that everybody's getting from it and looking at it and all that sort of stuff. So you sort of take, that's where they got inspiration from, whether they emulate to the nth degree an exact console or whether they just take that sort of style. You know, I'm not 100% sure, only they know the answer to that. But you can put this plugin on all of your tracks and all of your buses and group them together and all those sort of things and get some extra analog warmth to your song and, you know, glue it together, all that sort of stuff. So let's just get into it and check it out. Okay, so here we are in Cubase and I've opened up the Britson plugin. And okay, so if you watch my previous video where I did the Satson, what I've done is I've set this up to be exactly the same, but with the Britson. All right, so I've put on the group module and group setting, and I've placed them on various groups with drums, guitars, all different groups, right? You can have them all as one group. You can not even group them if you so choose. That's totally up to you. But let's just quickly run through the controls. They're very similar to the Satson, and so if you watch that one, it's exactly the same. But we'll go through it in detail just so you're 100% aware, and you know, I can show you each thing as we go. All right. So we've got a fader control here, which allows us to either push the input control or, you know, reduce it. So it's basically our gain here. So we can use this for gain staging. We've got a little button here that we can 2 times it if we need to go even bigger. We can do that. What we're aiming for here is that we want to get all of our audio tracks to be sitting around the 0 VU on average. And you should do that before you start mixing. Now I've added this to a mix already, and I did the same thing with the Satson. But because I'd gain staged that mix very well, and this is defaulting to -18 dBF, which is what I gain staged to anyway, it pretty much worked out that all the tracks were hitting 0 VU. Same with the buses and the master bus. So if you want to find out more about gain staging, check out one of my gain staging videos. But this plugin uses it, and it states it in the manual that it uses it, right? So you should be hitting 0 VU on all of your tracks. You should be hitting 0 VU on your buses, and you should hit 0 VU on your master bus. That is going to give you the best results out of this plugin. Now, if you need to tweak anything, you can do it from here, from the fader control, but you could also do it in your clip gain or whatever else you normally do to gain stage it, just as long as it's entering into this plugin and pushing it to 0 VU. All right, if I take it out of the group so we can get access to the controls, we have on or off, right? Turns the plugin on or off. We've got a fat control here, which basically makes the low end fatter, but it reduces the dynamic range and increases some distortion effects, etc. So they suggest that you use this sparingly or not at all, but it is there if you just need to get that a little bit more oomph out of the low end on a track or your mix or whatever. But just be aware, it can be overloading your mix a bit and could also reduce the dynamic range and sort of make it sound too compressed and too squashed as well. So we've got a low pass filter here that we can set. So from 20K down to 1K, if we need to take some of the top end off, you can do it here prior to any mixing. So you don't have to do it in an EQ or anything like that. You can do it on here. Also takes away from unwanted audio like low end rumble or something affecting the audio qualities and harmonics. We have a high pass filter here, which goes from 10 or off 10 Hertz up to 1.8K. Nothing special about that. Pretty simple, as I said, just to filter out some unwanted audio before you start processing it. It's handy to do it at the source. Okay, and if we click on here, we also get access to a back panel here. So if you need to, like in my case here, if I've already mixed and I placed this on and I needed to do some gain to get this up to 0, but I don't want to throw my mix out of balance, I could turn on this output compensation. The other reason you might want to do the output compensation is if you wanted to try and get more distortion out of this without boosting the volume of the track, you could put output compensation on and then boost the heck out of this up to 0, all the way up to 32 on 2 times or whatever. Okay, we'll just double click to put that back. All right, you can set the VU to pre-gain or post-gain. So basically the fader setting. You can change the filter's position to either pre or post as well. So you could actually filter after it's gone through the analog processing. And why you might do it before or after is, as I said, if you do it before, what it's going to mean is that it'll keep the unwanted audio from getting impacted by whatever distortion compression this is going to impart. If you do it post, then the low end or the top end, whatever you plan on filtering out, will be included in the process. So it can change the harmonic content and the distortion characteristics, but then you can filter it afterwards to clean up the low end, but it still has an impact on the harmonics and distortion, like I said. We have a mono processing here. So this one here was designed mainly for DAWs. They use an example like Reaper where every track is stereo, even if the audio itself is mono. So if you do have that and you want to reduce your processing power use by this plugin, you can flick this on for any track that should be mono, but is obviously stereo in the actual software itself. Cubase, you can do that in Cubase as well if you set all your tracks to stereo, but in my case, I set my tracks to be mono or stereo depending on the audio, so I won't be using that setting. All right, with the bus controls, hang on, let me just put that back to what it was. So it's on the drums, so I'll put that on the drums. All right, we will ungroup this one for a second. So again, we've got the VU meters. You're targeting 0 with this. Now you can change different settings. I didn't say that on the channel, but same thing. This one here's got a lot more options than the Satson did. The Satson had 3. This one's got more, but I'd leave it on -18 anyway for me personally. All right, and yeah, we can turn it on and off. We have the same fat control, uses the same concept. Now we also have a color here. So this is going to, it's supposed to give you an EQ coloration, post-saturation. All right, we've got default is flat. We've got master loudness and master bright. We can click on the name and we've got crosstalk. We've got a crosstalk type. It can be vintage or modern. We can do the VU meter again, pre or post, and we can turn grouping on. So I won't do it on here because you should only have it on 1. But if you look here, I have grouping turned on here. If I was to turn it off, it would disable all the grouping features, but I'm going to leave it. The default for the grouping is to have, it says group 1 to 7, but if you right click, you can actually give it specific names. Okay, you can leave it as group 1 to 7 if you are 1 to 8, but you can set it to those as well. You can turn on, so from this one master controller here, we can turn on or off each group. With this setting here, we can turn the FAT controller on. You'll see it's doing changes here to the drums. We could change the volume by doing a trim here, and it's not going to show on here. It's an internal volume. We can set the trim to either the channel alone, the buses alone, or both in the group. And yeah, if I do this now, it would push the volume of the group up. Now, if I tick this trim as drive, then it will not actually increase the volume, but what it will do, it will use this control to add more distortion or drive. So the volume will stay the same, but it's supposed to add a bit more grit. And again, this will apply to whichever option you have here. And you can double click to go back. You can bypass all groups by ticking that. It'll bypass every single group in this list. And you can also turn the FAT on all of the groups at once if you so choose. You can change the trim setting here to 3 different volume levels. If you want a bit of extra boost or you want less, you can do that. Default is that. And that's pretty much it. So, and you don't have to use groups. You can set them all to be ungrouped, or you could set it all to just one group. So group 1, if you want to control everything with just one group. But, you know, if you want greatest flexibility, I guess you've got this here. The concept is that what you're supposed to do is put the bus on every bus. Okay, so I've got it on the individual instrument buses, which are all these ones here. I need to put that back. And then I have one here on the mix bus. Now, I have actually put the mix bus ungrouped because I want to be able to control this one independently by itself. But I could have added it to the group. You know, I could have added it to the drums, or I could have even created its own group, mix bus. But it would be the only thing in there, so I don't really see the point. If you were using one group, then you might have this in group 1 and all the other tracks in group 1. And, you know, if you were to, but then these controls here will be grayed out and everything will be controlled from here. And you'd be turning them all on from here. Okay, and then, yeah, obviously I'll put the buses on each of the individual instrument buses and set them to their appropriate bus group. And then we put Britson on every single track here and set them to their appropriate group as well. Now, the recommendation is that you do this before you even start mixing at all. So your faders would all be set to 0, etc. And what you'd start off is gain stage every track, right? So you want to get either using the gain control here or the clip gain of the track itself. You can set them all so that they're hitting average 0 VU on the meter here for every single track. And then you can start mixing, etc. And you want to try and get your buses to be all hitting at 0 VU and even your mix bus at 0 VU. But again, as I said, that's sort of a gain staging concept, but they highly recommend it for these plugins because that's how they operate. This is the sweet spot for this plugin. This is giving you the best sound and the best use of the plugin itself. All right, so this is what it sounds like with everything turned off, including this one. So this is the mix bus. We'll turn that off. Now, actually, before we do anything here, I'm just going to give you an example of one track. So let's close that. So, yeah, in the sets and one, I did the bass. So we're going to do the same. I'm going to solo the bass. And I'm going to actually ungroup this so that I can control it. Okay, so. All right, so here's our bass. So we can boost its volume. Now that distortion there is coming from another plugin. So you have to ignore that, but we can get around that by doing the output compensation. So now anything I do here will be just itself. Okay, so this is the amount of drive I would get out of this by pushing that up there, if I turn it on. Usually helps if you turn it on. Okay, so if I turn that off there, right. That's if you want to get some distortion there. And if I 2 times it, a lot of distortion. Usually you don't want that, so but it depends. You can use it as character to add distortion. Now if we turn the fat mode on, you can hear some bottom end girth come in there. We can high pass, make it sound thin, get rid of rumble, whatever you want. Take the top end off. Okay, so let's put this back into the group. Let's undo that. All right, so what we're going to do is now we're going to actually see what it does or what it sounds like all together. Right, so we'll start off. These are all bypassed, no fat on. What we're going to do is we'll just start with just the mix bus itself. And if I turn fat on, all right, so now what we'll do is we will turn on all of the tracks and we'll see what that does. We'll leave the mix bus on. Alright, let's turn the fat on all of it. Yeah, it definitely sounds compressed now. Okay, so if I wanted to push the guitars, right, we could drop the volume, give it a lot of volume, just on the bass, both. Or we could do it as distortion. Okay, so now what does the EQ do? What does that do? Let's have a look. Now, I believe that is only changing that's only changing the mix bus. Okay, so I notice here that there doesn't seem to be any way to control the EQ color globally or through the bus. Now that makes it a little bit hard to, I guess, check or test across the board. Each one of them to see, which one do I like the best? I mean, it's very hard to check that, because if I go, I'm assuming, unless I'm wrong, that if I open a drum one, oh, it's fine. Actually, no, I'll take that back, because there is no coloration on the actual tracks themselves. It's only on the buses. So actually, it wouldn't be too hard to change them all. How you can compare them all, that would be a different thing. So we've got them all flat at the moment. So let's see if we can get them all on the window. Okay, so we've got drum. Yeah, let's get them all open first, and then I'll position them. Okay, so put that on there, that one there. All right, so they're all on here. So we've got them all on, and they're all set to flat. Okay, so that's off. All right, now let's change them all to master loudness, and we'll do the same thing. Start off. And there's a lot of low end in that. It's even hitting the levels are changing. All right, so let's change it all to bright now, and do that again. Okay, it's definitely bright. Does not hit the low end's not boosted as much. Definitely adding a lot of brightness. Yeah, so you've got some options there with what sound you want to go for. Now, I'm not sure if it's something that you're going to decide beforehand or afterwards. I guess the issue is that you're going to mix to taste. So, I mean, I would probably just leave it as default flat most of the time and mix. And I mean, you could experiment with these after, but really you shouldn't need to change those, because if you've mixed to default flat, you should be getting the results you want anyway. but it's there if you want to try something out, brighten it up. Obviously, master loudness, that brightened it a little bit, but it also boosted a lot of low end. Master bright just mainly brightened without the big boomy low end. So you've got some options there. So that is... let me just try my thing. All right, so that is the Britson bus. Yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Do you hear a difference? Is it something that you're going to use on your mix? Obviously, it's going to be very subtle, but there is a difference, and it's more about, obviously, it's just adding that little bit of extra glue and analog style console sound, I guess, to your mix. But let me know what you think. Do you hear a difference, or do you think, yeah, I don't hear enough to warrant it? Actually, sorry, I jumped the gun here. I'm just going to close these down. Let's just quickly do the last comparison like we did in the sats and on the clean part as well. So we'll do it there. So there you go. That is the Britson from Sonimus. Let me know what you think of it in the comments. If you have any questions about it, again, let me know in the comments. I'm happy to help wherever I can. Now, if you are thinking of getting this plugin because you like what you see, then check out the description below. I have a link there, which is an affiliate link. If you click on that and use that, I will get a small commission to help the channel out. It doesn't cost you any more, but it does support the channel a little bit to allow me to keep making content like this. But on top of that, there's also a code below that you can get 10% off any single plugin from Sonimus, as long as it's not on sale and as long as it's not part of a bundle. So if you just get a single standard plugin, like say Britson, then you can get it with 10% off with the code shown below in the description. So check that out if you are interested in getting this plugin. Again, if you like what you see here and you like my videos, click the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon to be notified of all my future releases. Hopefully the video has been helpful and enjoyable. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.